All right, everybody, it's your boy, Uncle Ed. Here I am again. So this time we're going to get into something that is kind of like the big elephant in the room. I'm sure you've all read and you've probably read a bunch of junk and a bunch of misinformation. So hence this video. We're talking about the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, their $418 million settlement that's supposed to be paid over 4 years. By the way, the Department of Justice or the DOJ has not done their final ruling yet. That's going to happen in July. So it's not done yet, technically. But of course, the news is up in the air and everybody's jumping in, including us. But the difference is that we're boots on the ground 24/7. And I can't think of anybody better who's always informed. This guy eats and lives and breathes this stuff on a daily, my friend and super agent Jeffrey Marple. So thank you very much for showing up, because this has been a topic I've been wanting to talk to you about for a bit since it first came out, because I know if anybody has an opinion, an insight that I value, it's you. So take the
Thank you.
hot mic and tell me what you think about this old nonsense.
Well, let's just give your audience a just a background of me. I'm a real
Please.
estate broker, started in San Francisco and Marin County as well. Had a small brokerage for a bit. I'm now the managing broker of Market Real Estate. We got about 50 agents throughout California. Also, the Marker Lux brand, which really focuses in San Francisco, more luxury level houses. So Marin County, those areas that really
Yeah.
really need that a higher level of service. And if you know me, I mean, my business, my reputation is based on service, and I think that is really the one thing that you can offer anybody is providing excellent service. And it doesn't really matter about what the price point is. I think everybody deserves the same quality of customer service. And that's really what I bring to the table.
Agreed.
Um, I have been in multiple conversations about this with the agents within our team. I conduct a weekly call every Wednesday with people, and there are some people that are definitely scared. Now, I think that the reality is the dust needs to settle, right? I have listened to the lawyers of California Association of Realtors as well as San Francisco Association of Realtors. They still need to revise contracts. They've prepped for all of that, but they have not released those contracts. And I think realistically, it's just there's going to be workarounds. I do think that this is going to be a big blow to a lot of agents. But as you probably realize, there's a lot of agents out there that aren't really worth their salt, in my personal opinion. There might be new agents, they might be part-timers, they might just be maybe not as informed. As you said, I kind of live, breathe this, and I'm a 24/7 guy. I pick up my phone whenever somebody needs me. Doesn't matter when. And what I think what will end up happening is that it's going to be a change of disclosure primarily. I do think that there are going to be those sellers that are going to be like, no, I'm going to pay you only 2.5%, and that's it. The reality is this, right? I have done this business for 24 years this year in our local market. And out of all of those transactions, I have double-ended maybe 6 transactions in my entire career.
Which means, by the
And
way, folks, that he represented the buyer and the seller.
right, right. And I think realistically, yeah, I mean, California, it's legal to do that. Let's say if you were a lawyer and you are representing a client, you would never represent both sides, right? The difference in real estate is we have fiduciary responsibilities, and I take the fiduciary extremely. I mean that's like the golden rule, right? I mean I'm a Boy Scout at the end of the day, and you got to do what's right. I'm a parent. The last thing I want to do is not be the model citizen for my kids. And so I live by that higher level, and that's just the way I operate. And most people are like that in the industry. Some people aren't, and you know those people that aren't. There's a few agents that I know that I don't trust at all. What I think will happen is, yes, there might be the possibility of a little bit more dual agencies, but people have to realize that you remove a huge layer of fiduciary responsibility when you are representing both sides of the transactions, right? Agents put themselves in jeopardy in that case. And sometimes deals just don't get done. And I have a few perfect examples recently in the last quarter that wouldn't have happened. And so I'm sort of getting off the subject a little bit, but there's a lot of speculation in the marketplace that people are like, oh, you're just going to double in the deal. Well, this is the reality. I don't know the specific percentage, but it's like 85% that every transaction is going to be represented by a listing agent and a buyer's agent, right? 85% of the transactions. And what will end up happening, in my belief, is if I am a listing agent, well, and if I'm on an interview with my clients and say these laws get galvanized and they become law of the land, in 4 months, realistically, I'm going to have these conversations with the seller and say, look, 85% of transactions get done with a cooperating agent. 85% of transactions get done with another agent, right? And so if a seller is going to be like, oh, no, I'm only going to pay you 2%, 2.5%. For me personally, the retort on that is, okay, well, realistically, the contracts are going to be amended to where on the first page of the car contract and probably SFAR contract, who pays what? If you're looking at the car contract right now, it says who pays what? Inspections, property tax, transfer tax, HOA, whatever. There's going to be a line in there that says who pays the broker's agent fee, because I'm not working for free. I don't think anybody in this world would work for free. I mean, I do some things sort of pro bono because I'm a nice guy and I help people out, but realistically, everybody needs to be paid. So realistically, what will end up happening if that listing agent and that seller says, no, I'm only going to do a listing for 2.5% and that's it. Okay. Well, me representing a buyer at that point, I come in, and if my buyer does not have the ability, because they have saved for years just to get that 20%, and they do not have that 20%, where's that money going to come from? I'm going to ask for it from the seller, right? Because from that point of view, when we talk about fiduciary, a listing agent has a fiduciary obligation for their seller clients to get the highest and best price possible, the best net possible. If I have a fiduciary with my buyer client and they only have 20%, well, but they are approved for X amount on a loan, well, realistically, I'm still doing my fiduciary duty to my buyer client to ask the seller to compensate me for my work, right? So I think that there's going to be workarounds to this. And really the laws that are coming down, California already had this lawyered up pretty well, right? And that lawsuit was in Minnesota, I think. And realistically, it's just going
Is
to
Iowa.
remove, it's going to remove the buyer side compensation from the MLS. Okay, well, so what? Is that compensation going to be posted anywhere else? I think that there's going to be a transition where sellers are going to go, oh, you greedy realtors, you do nothing for me, because, that's people think that already sometimes because they don't realize the value that people bring to the table, right? I got 24 years of experience doing this. And when I think about this, it's going to be a different way of disclosure. I think some of these details have to be still worked out. I think that buyers don't necessarily have the fees to pay for a buyer's agent. And so what's the ramification? They're just going to go right back to the seller and say, well, in my contract, I'm going to have to work those numbers a little bit. If I receive multiple offers, I'm still going to, if I'm a seller and selling agent, I'm still going to have to work what the best net is, right? But the reality is, most people have been saving a lot of time just to get the 20%. They don't have the money. And the other thing is, and this is, and I'm rambling, so please just interject.
No,
When you,
you're on a roll. I think you're absolutely correct. So far, what you said, I'm 100%
yeah,
with
when
you.
you have, we're in San Francisco, Marin County, right? Or I am. And when the market is hot, the market gets really hot. Traditionally, a lot of times when the market's hot, you're going to list a house 10% below the value. You're going to have it marketed for 2 weeks. You're going to set a bid date. You're going to get as many people into that property as possible. And then you're going to accept offers. Great. Well, from my point of view, if I'm this listing agent, there is absolutely no way I am going to represent a buyer in those transactions. I have been burned, or my clients have been burned by a couple agents, or one agent in particular, I'm not going to mention, who shopped my contract basically to his co-agent. He removed his co-agent from the MLS. The co-agent wrote the buyer's contract at my price, squeezed me out. And so the brokerage double ended it, right? Is that ethical? Fuck no. Sorry, it's not, right? And I think the reality is these things just have to play themselves out. People with a lot of equity, if they want to sell their house, a good listing agent is going to say, look, there's either going to be a negotiation up front for that, say 5%, give or take 5-6%, or we're going to settle for a listing contract for 2.5%. But you, Mr. Seller, have got to be prepared to renegotiate when buyer contracts come in and people want to be compensated. And so it for real estate agents, it's going to be more convoluted. It's not going to be clear cut. It's going to have a lot of questions out there of like, oh, what's the net? And do I have to work my numbers to show my client he's going to net more money this way or that way? So I think it's just, I think that's the way it's kind of going to play out. I think that it's going to be really hard. It's going to hurt first-time home buyers. I think it's going to hurt VAs. I know that there are conversations happening with lenders to be able to absorb the buyer commission within the loan, but that is not existing today. But I know from when I listened to the lawyers at CAR or SFAR that those conversations are happening, and you might have better insight on that. But realistically, I think it's just like it has to just play out. And for buyers agents out there, they have to show their worth, right? They really do. And like even
Bingo.
this last week, I realized I didn't have a buyer and a seller section on my website. I'm like, okay, I need to put a buyer section, things I do. But the reality is, if I talk to somebody, I've been doing this for a long time and I've represented a lot of buyers. I just have to talk to people, right? Try to figure out what their needs are, what their requirements are, talk about the market and all that. I sell myself, not from a sales point of view, but it's the knowledge that I have and the experience that I have that's pretty darn evident when people talk to me. And if you do not have that experience or that comfort level, you're going to be left in the dust. If you're a buyer's agent and you don't have the knowledge and experience, you better start working on it. And I teach my agents all the time. I troubleshoot weekly, with deals and whatnot's going on. You got to show your value, right? And on both sides of the transactions, you just have to show your value.
And hone your negotiation skills.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Here's my couple of examples, right? So, perfect example. I closed last year in the St. Regis. There was a 3-bedroom unit, 33E. It's the largest unit in the St. Regis. It's a stack. It's the largest unit. Beautiful unit. My client lives in the building. She's an original owner. She's been there forever. She wants an E unit. I have been looking for that E unit for 3 years. I mean, serious, 3 years. We
Wow.
have made contracts out that were close, never got it because my client, she's a sharp whip. She is a financial bigwig at Morgan Stanley, something like that. But she is incredibly smart. I mean, she is so direct and just she knows it. Um, and the reality is like, look, the St. Regis, for instance, right? Those units don't sell that fast. It's a condo hotel. The HOAs are $3,000 a month. I mean, there's a lot, and especially in the location. So you either want that location or you don't. You either want that building or you don't, right? And so that unit was listed originally at $5.5 million. We bought it for 4 million bucks, $1.5 million below the
What?
listing price, right?
Wow.
And it took us 8 months. I don't know. We originally wrote that contract most likely in second quarter of last year. We closed on that second day of this year because we walk away. Our number is $4 million. If you don't want it, fine, bye. We'll see you later. And I wrote plenty of letters to the E units and I got some replies and all of that. But there's only a handful of those units. So I mean, there's not much.
Yeah.
This unit came up. It was the right situation. It was a trust. The woman that owned it was a secondary home. She was incredibly wealthy because her husband or deceased husband started a massive real estate company, like a construction company, and she had money. And so really, the seller was sort of stuck on price, and they came down. They came down to like I don't know 4.8, 4.7. And then with the listing agent, so I'm like talking to the listing agent. I'm like, no, sorry, my client's not going to negotiate. We're at 4 million bucks. We're at four.
Those are
And then he
final.
keeps on coming back. Go, Jeff, I really want to do a deal with you. I want to make this happen. What if we come back a little bit higher? I'm like, I appreciate the sentiment. No, it's 4 million bucks. Sure enough, and at that time, my client was like, why do we have to rewrite a contract? I'm like, well, any contract that we had was, months ago. And this is all
Yeah.
verbal. Let's put it in writing and put it in writing that we're good to go. We still want the unit. We'll execute it. These are the terms. These are the dates. We're good to go. Sure enough, we got the deal. 4 million bucks, 45-day close of escrow, something like that, because she wanted to close this year. Done. Another unit that I just closed maybe 10 days ago over in the Brannan. There was a 16 seat. This is a unit that came on the market last year, and I think the listing price was a hair under 1.7, 1,699,000. So 1.7 basically. They tried to sell that last year. They didn't sell it. They lowered the price to 1.5. And if you know the Brannan, it's a great building. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I
really
know the Brandon.
complex.
Yeah.
It's a really good
Right by
building.
the water. Yep.
Yep, yep. And it's kind of timeless. It has not aged, right? It's
Yeah. That's
a
true.
20-year-old
Because it
building,
was
but
always
it's
high end.
yeah, it's very it has a W hotel feel. It's very luxe. So, you know, my clients were in town and it was now listed at 1.5. The seller was out. She's tried to sell it you know, at the end of last year. She's selling it here. And so we wrote a contract for 1.4. And that was like a new low for the building. I mean, for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's on the 16th floor. In that building, I was in there actually the other day because we've got a wood floor guy in there. It's only an 18th floor building. And sure enough, I submitted this offer and the listing agent was like, Jeff, I appreciate your offer. I'm going to advise her not to take it. That's what she said. I'm like, fine, whatever. I'm doing what my client wants me because I have fiduciary. We're putting our best foot forward. You don't want it, whatever. I actually forgot about it all day long. I didn't even think about it. I was doing other things, and that night it was like 9:30 at night. I get a text or an email. Congratulations, we're in contract. No counter offer, no nothing. And then it comes down to the negotiation. And this is the beauty part of it. My clients live in Italy right now, and so they're by coastal or by country, whatever. They live there part time, and they have their adult son living in Mission Bay, and so realistically, if they were not being represented by somebody like me, they wouldn't have gotten it. If they went to the listing agent, they wouldn't have gotten it.
Yeah, they
You
wouldn't
know,
have gotten it.
so
Yeah.
that's you got to be able to show the value, and you got to do what your clients want, and you got to know your game. You got to know it. And here's the leverage that I had, right? My clients are in Italy. They do not want to get a loan. So we're all cash up to a certain point, right? We could be all cash up to 1.4, but if we're going over that, the deal's done. We're not doing it. They don't want to get a loan. They're not going to go to the US consulate in Rome or wherever it is and do paperwork that's 3 hours from their house in Italy to have a 2 hour window just to come back and do paperwork. They're like, I'm not going to do that. That's a headache. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. So that was kind of our point. We're like, look, we're good to go on this thing. If you want to get out from under it, you have plenty of equity. She was an original owner. So there's equity in the deal. She took it, So, I mean, that's the thing. I think that people really have to realize that you have to have really good representation, especially in San Francisco. And I think that those people that think that they're going to do it themselves, buyers, and go straight to the listing agent, you're missing out. You're absolutely, because once again, from a fiduciary point of view, and let me explain to your audience, right? All disclosures of material facts have to be disclosed to both sides. To a seller, if I was representing both sides of the transaction, there is a fine line that I cannot tell a seller what a buyer will be able to go up to. And to the buyer side, I cannot divulge to the seller what, or vice versa,
To the buyer.
I cannot divulge to a buyer what a seller is willing to come down to.
Right.
That's the line from a fiduciary point of view, right?
100%.
And so if you think, oh, there's a lot of people, and throughout my career, oh, I'm just going to go to the listing agent. Okay, go fine. I mean, if you're not going to value my time anyway, good luck. Good luck, right? That's
No, I
fine.
think you gave two great examples. And here's the truth. I mean, does your average buyer know what to look for even when they walk into a property? Like, what are potential red flags? Do they even know what to offer? Do they know anything? In reality, yeah, you've seen it online. And that doesn't make you an expert because you've seen something. I've seen a lot of things. I'm not an expert at everything I see,
Yeah,
right? The other
especially.
piece that I think you're 100% correct is look, anybody who expects anybody to work for free is delusional. I mean, that's called
Oh yeah, no,
being
no,
a docent at, like I mentioned to you, at Philola. If you want to be a volunteer, then go do that in your
yeah,
retirement. But you're not going to do that to earn an income and to be able to retire. Nobody,
right.
including everybody watching this, is going to work for free. Can you imagine if your employer said, "Hey, here's the deal. I'll keep you on the job, but I want you to work for the next 2 weeks for free. I'm not going to
Yeah,
pay you." What would you do? Start looking.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly what you would do. So for
yeah.
you to expect anything different from others makes no sense, and you don't understand the golden rule. Let's just
No,
put that out there,
I,
right? The
I
other
get it.
piece is that I do believe it's going to become very Darwinian. Yes, the people who were agents who just know how to turn a key at a front door, who really are not experts, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to either get your game up or go find a job. It's just
Yeah.
the way it
No,
is,
I
right?
agree.
It's
We've
just the
had
way
a
it is.
couple agents fall out of working, they're newer agents, and they were like, I'm straight up with them. I'm like, this is a tough market. This is going to be like 2008. I mean, this is different reasonings, but it's going to be a challenging market. They need to have their safeguard. And the other thing is like, hell, if you had a root canal, you're going to go to a cheap ass dentist to do your root canal or orthodontist. I mean,
Or you
I
need a knee replacement? Yeah,
yeah,
let's go
you
get a
get what
cheap
you
one.
pay for. You
Good
get
luck
what you
walking.
pay.
No, that's exactly right. So I think if
Mm.
anything, folks, that you take out of this is that real experts matter,
Mhm.
not just in real estate and everything, right?
Yeah.
A good financial advisor, a good tax person. Can you imagine if you have a horrible tax person, what that's going to do for
Do
your
your own
taxes?
taxes, you know?
Yeah, do your own
Oh,
surgeries while you're at it too. Be
no,
your own doctor. It's just,
no,
come on. This is the
no.
reason why you have to have a team. And by the way, again, I announced this last Friday, the creation of my elite agent network. Jeffrey is one of those agents in that network. Like I mentioned to you, look at the level of expertise. I know all the great agents all over the country. I have taken 24 years almost of my life of 24/7, just like him, to vet of who's who. Either reach out to Jeffrey or reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with him. But what's a good email address for them to reach you at?
It's easy. That's Jeff at jeffmarples.com. My website is jeffmarples.com. I run a website also called San Francisco Condomania. I run a new website called Marin Dream Living. Um,
Excellent.
and my
Well,
phone
there you
number is
go.
415-336-9695. I encourage people, if they actually want to reach out, just call me because, you
Yep.
know, I'll chat. I'll talk, give advice. I'm not
Absolutely.
a pushy sales guy. The funny thing is, there's going to be agents out there. I was at an open house 3 weeks ago, and the agent that was there was not the listing agent of another property that was on the market in the condo complex. That guy was a pushy MFer. I mean, he didn't care about anything. He just kept on going straight to the jugular. We'll write a contract. We'll write a contract. I don't go write a contract. I'm like, dude, what kind of advice is that? I mean,
Calm
it's just
down.
sort of like talk about a used car salesman. I'm just sort of like, wow,
Yeah.
where's the advice? Where is the insight?
Yeah.
Any of it? Where's the honest opinion? Right?
Well, and to your point, Jeff, is there's a difference between a salesperson and an advisor.
Exactly.
That's
Thank
where
you very
you, the
much.
consumer, needs to know the difference, right?
Yeah.
That is where the rubber meets the pavement. Are you talking to a salesperson or are you talking to an advisor who's a seasoned person who knows their stuff, who, by the way, puts your best interest? I mentioned to you that
Yeah.
I've handpicked the agents that I put in my network uh, based on, yes, of course, their technical knowledge and their years of experience, but also do they put you, the client, first?
Absolutely
Do they
first.
advise you? Are they
Absolutely.
educators? Are they
Yeah.
giving you good strategy? Are they showing you how you're going to win? Right?
Mhm.
That's important. Last thing I wanted to say before we get off, and thank you so much for your time and your insight, because this has been fantastic. The part that I'm going to say is this: is on the seller side is how greedy do you want to be? Because here's the truth, and very few people or nobody's really talking about this. When the seller decides to pay for commissions, they're using equity dollars.
Yeah.
The buyer is using income dollars. It's not the same. Matter of fact, I'm going to
Great.
go out on a limb and say that the buyers are the reason why you have equity, because when you bought, you set a certain you put that property at a certain level, and so will the next buyer, right? So how greedy do you really want to be? You're not using income dollars to pay for these commissions. You're using equity dollars. You got
Yeah.
paid to
Out
sleep
of
and live in this
proceeds.
house.
You're not coming up with money. That is a great point. Absolutely fantastic point, Ed.
And so let's leave you at that. But please reach out to Jeff. You want to know more about the NAR settlement? You want to really get honed in to buying a property, because yes, you can. There's, by the way, I have hundreds of loan programs. So no matter what your situation, let's talk, even if you have bad credit or whatever, income issues, asset issues, whatever. And then on the property side, reach out to Jeff, because he's going to be able to show you the good deals and he's going to be able to negotiate on your behalf so that you can win. Again, thanks, Jeff. Always a
No,
pleasure, man.
Edward, thank you very much. I
All right,
appreciate the
my friend.
time. Good
You
chatting
be
with you.
well. Thank you.